What's up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with my pendulum version of Yosenju. So, like I said in the last Yosenju deck profile, I was going to give you guys a pendulum variation. This is going to be crazy because I had always not strayed towards the pendulum aspect of it. Then when they got the newer cards, I was like, oh yeah, pendulum. That's right, they do have that support. And the crazy thing about the Yosenju, that a lot of it has a lot of synergy. You just got to know what cards to run with it, and if you're going to be able to run the cards. If you don't want to run them, you have your variations of this deck to run. So don't worry too much about that. But I'm happy to give you guys this Yosenju deck profile, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So let's begin. Alright, I'm going to start off with my monster lineup, because my monster lineup and my extra deck has completely changed itself. The only thing that hasn't really changed is I'm running still 3 copies of Yosenju, 1. However, I'm only running 2 copies of Yosenju, 2. 3, and 1 copy of Yosenju, 2. I could have switched it and just ran 2, 2, 2, if that's ever the sense. That would have helped out. Then, some of the newer Yosenju monsters. I'm running 2 copies of Yosenju Sabu and 2 copies of Yosenju Isna. Then, I'm running 2 copies of Yosenju Suji. And my pendulum monsters are 2 copies of Yosenju Senchu L and 1 copy of Yosenju Senchu R, with 2 copies of Yosenju Hitat and 1 copy of Yosenju Daibok. So that is it for the pendulum scales in my monster lineup. For my spells, I'm running 3 copies of Fire Formation Tinky, 2 copies of Yosen Training Ground, 2 copies of Yosenju Orochi Channeling, then 3 copies of Call by the Grave. 2 copies of Call by the Grave, 1 copy of Twin Twister. I don't know how that got. I guess because I thought I was running 3? No, I am running 3. That one got caught in the middle. Okay, there we go. And then I'm running 2 copies of Twin Twister and 1 copy of Dimensional Fissure. So that is it for the spells. Then for my traps, I'm running 3 copies of Yosenju Secret Move, 3 copies of Yosenju Sword Sting, 2 copies of Torrential Tribute, and 1 copy of Macrocosmos. So that is it for the spells and the traps. Now we're going to move on to the extra deck. For my extra, I'm running 2 copies of Great Fly, 2 copies of Fighter Fighting Daruma Doll. Let me fix this up. There you go. Then I'm running 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus and 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. Then I'm running 1 copy of Beryl Sword Dragon. So that is it for the pendulum. For the Link monsters. I almost said pendulum. Now for the extra egg monsters, I'm still running 1 copy. I'm running 1 copy each of Lightning Chidori, Tornado Dragon, that Gusto Emerald, Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, Castel, Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, Abyss Dweller, Gaga Cowboy, and number 41 Babuska, the Terribly Tired Chick Eater. So that is my lineup for my main and my extra deck. So let's go over just a bit. I'm actually going to start off with my pendulum monster. So I know a lot of people are still figuring out the whole setup for the pendulum setup. The pendulum aspect of this deck really does rely on the additional effects of Hitat and Yosenju Senshi R. These two have the ability where they can change the scale of any Yosenju monster on the board to 11. And the reason why you want it for 11 is primarily because you can summon Hitat and Daibok off of the special summon of the pendulum summon. Now, all these monsters overall have great effects. More so, the useful why I'm only running 2 Hitat into L is 1, because I'm testing. 2, because I have the channeling that will search for these. And then I also have the effect of Sabu that helps me get cards as well. So, the Pendulum lineup is some unique stuff because these are the Beast Warrior, these are the Beast monsters and the Rock monsters, which you're normally known for seeing Yosenju as a Beast Warrior oriented deck because that's what we strayed towards. There are those variations of Yosenju that focus purely on the pendulum aspect now because we have Hitak, we have Sabu, we have Esna that can help extend a lot of those combination of plays. Now, they may not always work out for everybody, and myself included, because as much as I love the fact that we're getting the chance to use a lot of the older cards, Yosenju's pendulum setup, I kind of just would have relegated it to just these two. Now, if you do want to run Daibak and Hitak, let me tell you, these two monsters are actually really good monsters. They have effects that respond to cards that are being removed, that are being returned to the hand or the deck through effect. That's mainly Hitak, because every time a card is returned to the hand while he's in the field, all the current monsters on the field that are Yosenju will gain 500 attack. That's not a once per turn effect. That's each time it happens. The only once per turn effect this monster really has is when it's returned back to the hand during end phase, of which it was special summoned. Then you have Daibak, who, when it's normal or special summon, has the ability to return monsters to your opponent's hand. Cards to your hand. I have to read this again. Yeah, 2 cards on the field and return it to hand. And that pretty much helps out. And his pendulum summon cannot be negated, which is great because you're going to be pendulum summoning this. So to have it be immune to destruction through its summoning condition helps out against a lot of cards. Now let's talk about L and R. So these two, as monsters, have a unique ability that when they're normal summon, they switch to defense mode. While they're on the field, L says your opponent's monsters cannot be targeted. Your monsters cannot be targeted by card effects except for this. R says that your opponent cannot target your Yosenju monster for a battle except for it. They have 2100 defense if that helps for those defensive bonuses, but their pendulum effects are the things that also help out as well. So, but it's at R in Hitat have that whole L, turning the scales to 11. Hitat in R have a little clause to them that says you can only summon Yosenju monsters. Fine, because you're practically playing all of them. L is a defensive card, because if your Yosenju monsters would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy this card instead. So that helps there. That's also why I'm running 2, because I want to give his. I might end up just dropping it from 2 to 3, turning from a 2 up to a 3 up, and then running 3 Hitat, or maybe 2 Hitat, 2 Daibak, because you want to see this a lot more. But these two relatively do help in that scale setup. Now, if this is in the scale, I'd rather this be in the scale with it. So that way it'd be 3 to 7, and then I can at least still summon my 4s. I'll just have to find the way to normal summon. I can mount stuff away. The scales just are strange in terms of how much you can change them. If you can change them, take advantage of it. And that's pretty much what this deck can do. And like I said, you can return cards to your hand, so you can easily return Daibak back. Or if you have an extra Daibak in the grave or in the field and stuff like that, you can return it. But I'm still in the testing of the pendulum setup. So this is just what I'm trying out right now. So, alright. And then we're going to move on to the rest of the other monsters before I take up too much time. A lot of the Beast Warriors. I'm just going to say that now. Comma 1 has the ability to remove a card on the field that's face up once a turn. Then we have Yosenju Comma 3 in 2. 2 has the ability that it can attack your opponent directly, but any damage it does through its effect will be cut in half. Yosenju Comma 3, whenever a Yosenju monster inflicts damage to your opponent, add 1 Yosenju card from your deck to your hand. So you have a Searcher, a Direct Attacker, and then you have the effects of Comma 1 to remove stuff. All the Yosenju monsters have that are level 4 or lower, with the exception of 1 monster, has that when they're normal summoned, you return those cards back to hand during the end phase of that turn. which isn't too much of a downside if you can play through most of it. The only exception to the returning back to hand effect are, um, what is it, Yosenju Kodan and Yosenju LNR. They don't have that little clause to them. Yosenju Sabu is an additional searcher. Sabu, when he's normal summoned, you have the ability to search for either Yosenju card. No, if you control another Yosenju card, you can search for a Yosenju Pendulum monster and add it to your hand. So you have your selection of the guys you can search for. Or you can target a Yosenju card you control, and then place a Dizzy Winds of the Yosenju Village or Yosen Whirlwind from your deck to your hand. Those cards are pretty much relegated to the level 5 or higher Yosenju monsters. They're not bad, but they have a lot of just effects. But for the most part, you're using Sabu to help you get your Pendulum monsters. It's a pretty big part of him. And then Isna, she helps you with some additional draw, because when she's on the field, you can draw a card. But if Isna's in your hand, you can discard her, and then your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a Yosenju monster's normal or special summon. So there's the offensive defensive set of that. And then you have Yosenju Sujik, which is pretty much this archetype's honors. You can discard it to give a Yosenju monster additional 1000 attack, or while it's on the field, you can select the Yosenju monster and give that monster 1000 attack till the end of the turn. So the 6 of these guys, amazing monsters, amazing setups. Hopefully, we get some more of them. If not, I mean, we got cards like Kodam and stuff we can throw in. We got a lot of good monsters we can throw into this to help speed up the process of the normal summons. Because I am thinking of, I want to run Kodam and Kodam's additional effect and combine it with Training Ground and see how far that can take the deck. But yeah, this is pretty much these guys, and a lot of their numbers have to change because I'm running the Pendulum setup, so I have to fit in some things. So that's why there's only 2, 3, because I can search with Sabu, and then there's only 1, 2, because even though it's chip damage, it at least will trigger off Kodam 1. But I was kind of questioning wanting to run 2 2s instead of 3 1s, but Comma 1 has that help out to, remove cards from the board. So that's the 6 of them. That leads off all of my monsters. No hand traps because my spells and traps kind of help mitigate that. But if you want to, Ash Blossom, like I said, she's on target. And she can help out this deck tremendously with her effects. Just give me a second to put everything back together. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the spells and traps, and we're going to talk about Fire Formation Tinky. This pretty much just to help search out for your Beast Warrior monsters and the additional 100 attack that it can give to them. Not only makes or breaks a combination, but it just helps so much with searching and returning. You can return it with Diebox effect, so that Diebot can, you can use it again and search for some more support if you haven't used this effect already, or it's just lingering around. But I still want to keep this at a 3F because I wanted to see this as much as possible to help get a lot of the other cards out as soon as possible. So that is Tanky. Moving on from Tanky, we're going to talk about Yosen Training Ground. I'm only dialing in 2 of these because sadly enough, it can't be searched off of the effect of Sabu. If Sabu could search for Yosen cards, that'd be great, and this would be one of the bigger targets because that way I can at least utilize the normal and special summon, the counters that he gains for normal or special summons. Then in addition to that, I can trigger off either of the effects. I can give 300 attacks to all my Yosenju monsters currently on the board, or I can search or retrieve a Yosenju card from the deck or graveyard when it has 3 counters on it. And the counters can stack up, but I can only use 1 effect a turn, which is fine because either I'm searching or I'm getting that addition or retrieving. I've rarely used the additional attack, but that's only if I want to go for game. So that is the Training Grounds. Then we move from training grounds. We're going to talk about channeling. So channeling allows you to search for L and R and put them onto the board. But during the opponent's end phase, they are destroyed. That's not too bad of a thing because you can also use the defensive capabilities of your pendulum scales to help you summon out a lot of your pendulum monsters. Which is also the other thing about this is that you cannot special summon monsters except for Yosenju monsters. You can only activate this card if you control no monsters, which is fine because this deck's not really going to control much outside of what you're going to do on your turn. Which is why you need to run a lot of defensive spells and traps with this deck. A lot of floodgates can easily help this deck as well because of that little clause. The other effect of this is that you can search for a level 5 or higher Yosenju monster and add it to your hand, so you can add some of your bigger monsters who have those scales attached to them as well. And this is just the two of, because at least you can search for it off of Training Ground, you search off of this with comma 3, and you can set up your pendulum lineup. And then set up your pendulum scales through L and R, who are also very good in their defenses. Call by the Grave to help you deal with hand traps in case you can't get to macro or D-fissure fast enough. Then Twin Twister to help get rid of spells and traps. Like I said, because you have Yosen Training Ground, Twin Twister will help. Like even if you have to discard for this, you have Yosen Training Ground to help you retrieve what you discarded. But getting rid of spells and traps can be a niche and can be very needed if having to have that removal aspect. I mean, you can also run Mystical Space Typhoon, if that's ever a thing, because I have seen some people started to run Typhoon. But a lot of people like to run Twister because it can hit multiple targets. You can choose if you want to hit multiple targets, and the discard. If you don't want to discard, MST is the way to go as well. Alright, and then while we're going to go on to the macros, D-Fissure, we can talk about macro. Macro and D-Fissure are a combination set, as we all know. The big thing about these two is it helps with, hand traps, which is that can easily not deal with. You can run your own hand trap setups to combat your opponent. Call by the Grave is still an option, but you just really want to make sure you're not getting Effect Failures, you're not getting Ash Blossom, you're not getting Bella, you're not getting an OCG, you're not getting Max C, no Droll, no Lockbird, none of that. You're just going to pretty much play off of, here's my Beat Stick army, they're going to swing, and anything you try to answer with that would be discarded from your hand or deck is going to get banished, or can get banished because I have D-Fissure and Macro Cosmos. You also stop a lot of the removal effects, and I think literally the only thing that you'd have to worry about is if these get removed, or Secret Village of Spellcasters. But then, like I said, you have Twin Twisters, you have Call by the Graves, and you have monsters that help you can remove stuff, as well as a few traps. So that is Macro and D-Fissure, and as we go on to the trap cards, Yosen Training Ground and Yosen Sword Swing, both searchable through Yosen Training Ground, as well as the effects of Comma 3. Secret Move is pretty much this archetype's Divine Punishment. You just need to control a Yosenju card for it to trigger. This includes your Pendulum monsters, because they're a Yosenju card. And you of course, retrieve this from the graveyard as well. Then we have Yosenju Sword Swing. And I'm running 3 of these because I like the combination effects it has with a lot of removal. To send stuff to the hand. Push out a lot of plays. I have to control at least one Yosenju card and all my monsters have to be changed. But that's perfectly fine. Oh, wait, is it? No, I'm reading the wrong card. No, if you control no monsters, then you reveal 2 Yosenju cards. Monsters in your hand with different names. And then for the total number of monsters that you revealed, you remove that mean number of cards. This actually helps out just clearing the field itself and returning those cards back to the hand. And it disrupts a lot of plays as well. So that's part of the reason why I want to run triples of both of these. I can search them, I can retrieve them, and then I can get rid of stuff. And then Torrential Tribute, just to mess with my opponent even more. While they're doing all those big summons, just drop this on them. And because most of your time, your cards are going to be in the hand, or you can find a way to protect your cards from being destroyed by a card effect. Yeah, just hit that Torrential and not have to worry about it. Alright, and we're going to move on to the extra deck. So a lot of the numbers did change for the most part. But the ones that didn't change, I guess I should talk about more so, and that's practically all the Exceed monsters. Chidori, Tornado Dragon, and Castel are here for removal um, of cards here and there. Tornado Dragon easily works on your opponent's turn, so you can deal with their spells and traps. Um, Chidori and Castel is just some staple wind support that can be given to this deck. People with some wind support. You never really think to run Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon and Yosenju, but because of its ability to force your opponent to not be able to attack other Harpie cards, you can just sit on this monster for a couple of turns and just swing at your opponent. And I've done that a couple of times. It was actually an idea that I thought about in for a minute. I was like, well, this could work out, and it's just been a really good scenario situation. That's because like this deck doesn't have any extra deck monsters, and you know, just the feed off of it helps. Now, if you're gonna run Pot of Extravagance, I mean, you can just triple up on a lot of cards, or not really care too much of what you hit at random, and just go from there to draw your additional cards. Or you can run Card of Demise and really not worry about your normal. I mean, your special summon, because most of your stuff is normal anyway, and you just remove as much as you possibly can. Emerald is here for Pot of Avarice, in case you do discard. You happen to have your monsters in the graveyard. You have some more additional retrieval for them, and then you can draw off of its effect. So those are the big five of the wind. Then Exciton Knight, kind of more in a similar situation, just to remove stuff off the board, and you can chain to a lot of things during your opponent's turn. Abyss Dweller to deal with graveyard effects. The Cowboy for that 800, and Babushka for the stall out. For the most part, I did, thankfully, enough switch in a lot of the other Link monsters in case I couldn't get rid of it itself. It's not a Beast Warrior or Beast monster, which sucks because it would have helped tremendously with that, but sometimes just things don't work out. So, alright, that is the Exceed monsters. Now I can go on to my Link monsters. Great Fly and Fighter Fighting Darumidal. A Wind Beast combination staple setup. Darumidal helps you get rid of spells and traps your opponent controls. You can knock out one of your spells and traps in exchange. 100 attack and defense. 100 attack for each Beast Warrior, Beast, or Winged Beast on the board. Most of the Yosenju monsters are Beast and Beast Warrior, with the exception of L and R. But most of the time, L and R is probably going to be in Pendulum Zone if that's ever needed. And you can pop them and then, trigger the destruction of your opponent's spells and traps as well. So, and of course, it's recovery effect to get a Winged Beast, or Beast Warrior from the grave or banished back to your hand. So, with the Macro Cosmos things, you have that to take advantage of as well. Greyfly is just here for the additional 500 additional attack and defense. And it helps get rid of monsters. It helps clear off the board. So, that is the two of them. Phoenix and Cerberus to clear monsters in back row if they're ever needed, especially because I can link into them to get rid of Babushka, if Babushka's time to not be needed is needed. And then the last monster, of course, for this extra deck is the Barrel Sword Dragon, just another staple monster to be running in here. I mean, you can run any 4 if you want to, but I wanted to run the Barrel Sword Dragon just because offensively good, defensively good, and just a good go-to monster. So that pretty much is it for the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I will hopefully have some more stuff up. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell when you guys want to be informed of when I upload, and I will catch you guys next time. HPJ, signing out. Take care.